What would you do if your best friend, the person who holds all your secrets, decided to ruin your entire life just to steal a job promotion from you? Would you be satisfied with getting your job back, or would you make it your mission to take everything from her? I chose the latter. This is the story of how I went nuclear. Sophie and I weren't just friends. We were an institution. Our friendship was forged in the fires of kindergarten playground politics and solidified over decades of shared secrets, cheap wine, and navigating the messiness of growing up. She was the keeper of my most embarrassing moments, and I was the vault for hers. We worked at the same marketing firm, a place where our friendly rivalry was just another part of our bond. For over a year, we were both vying for the same senior marketing manager position. I genuinely thought it was a healthy competition. I thought that no matter who got it, we'd celebrate together. I was so wrong. The night everything changed started with celebration. I had just closed a massive deal for the company, and I was feeling on top of the world. Sophie and I were at my apartment, a bottle of wine between us, and I was feeling loose and unguarded. It's what you do with your best friend. You vent. You say the stupid, unfiltered things you can't say to anyone else. I vented about my boss, how demanding he was. I complained about my boyfriend Mark and his overbearing mother, who seemed to think our relationship was a committee she needed to chair. And then, in a moment of tipsy stupidity, I made the joke that would detonate my life. Honestly, at this point, I'm so desperate for that promotion, I should just sleep with the CEO. I slurred, laughing. Guaranteed win, right? Sophie laughed with me, refilling my glass. She knew it was a crude, ridiculous joke. She knew I wasn't serious. She was my best friend. A week later, I got the promotion. I was ecstatic, ready to pop champagne and celebrate with the one person I thought would be happiest for me. But when I told Sophie, her reaction was off. There was no squeal of excitement, no hug, just a tight, forced smile and a quiet, wow, congrats. I brushed it off, thinking she was just disappointed she didn't get it. I had no idea she was already sharpening the knife. The next morning, I was called into my boss's office. I walked in with a confident smile, assuming we were going to discuss my new responsibilities. He didn't smile back. He just gestured to the chair across from his desk, his face a granite mask. On his computer screen, glowing like a toxic beacon, was a screenshot of my private conversation with Sophie. The joke about the CEO, the complaints about him being a demanding boss. My world tilted on its axis. I can't have someone with this kind of judgment in a senior role, he said, his voice cold and final. We're terminating your employment, effective immediately. I couldn't breathe. I tried to explain it was a private joke, taken out of context, that I was venting to a friend. He wasn't listening. I was escorted out by security, my belongings in a cardboard box, my career in ashes. Humiliated and heartbroken, I drove home, ready to collapse into my boyfriend Mark's arms. But when I walked through the door, the second blow landed. His bags were packed and sitting by the door. He didn't even look at me. He just held up his phone, and there it was again, a screenshot of my conversation. The part where I vented about him, about how sick I was of his mother controlling our life. My mother comes first, he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. If you don't respect that, you're not the one for me. And just like that, he walked out of my life. I thought it couldn't get any worse. It did. That night came the final, devastating blow. An edited, twisted version of my conversation, this time focusing on things I had said about our mutual friends in confidence, was posted on social media from an anonymous account. It was strategically cut to make me look like a malicious, two-faced gossip. My phone blew up with angry messages. I tried to explain, to tell my friends it was fake, that it was Sophie. Nobody believed me. They had the proof right in front of them. Within 24 hours, I had lost my job, my boyfriend, and my entire circle of friends. I was left completely and utterly alone, shattered by the one person I trusted most in the world. I lay on my floor that night, the silence of my empty apartment screaming at me. And in that silence, a cold, hard resolve began to form. The person I used to be, the trusting, forgiving friendie that day. In her place, someone else was born. Someone who would methodically and mercilessly ruin Sophie's life. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was going to take everything. For weeks, I was a ghost haunting the ruins of my own life. I spent my nights staring at the ceiling, replaying Sophie's betrayal in an endless, agonizing loop. The desire for revenge was a fire in my gut, but I had no blueprint. I wasn't some criminal mastermind. I was just a heartbroken woman with a laptop. I knew I couldn't act on pure emotion. I needed a plan. I needed to be cold, calculated, and patient. I started by doing what I do best: research. I made a list of every vulnerability, every secret, every insecurity Sophie had ever shared with me. It was a long list. First on that list, her darkest secret, Drew. He was a married man, a partner at a law firm, and Sophie's long-standing affair. She had been seeing him for nearly 2 years, convinced he was going to leave his wife for her. I always told her it was a dead end, that she deserved better, but she was addicted to the drama of it all. This was her Achilles heel, and I was going to aim my first arrow right at it. I went through our old text messages, digging up conversations where she detailed their secret meetups. I found photos she'd sent me of gifts he'd bought her. I compiled everything into a neat, anonymous email. The recipient? Drew's wife. I hit send and waited. The explosion was more spectacular than I could have imagined. His wife didn't just confront him, she went public. She posted the screenshots, the photos, everything on her Facebook page, tagging Sophie and the law firm where Drew worked. The post went viral in our social circle. People who had once admired Sophie for her perfect life were now staring at undeniable proof of her home wrecking. She was humiliated. The comments were brutal. For the first time in weeks, watching her social status crumble into digital dust, I felt a flicker of something that wasn't pain, it was satisfaction. But I was just getting started. Next, I set my sights on her career. Reputation is everything in marketing, and I knew exactly how to tarnish hers. I created a fake social media profile in her name, using a slightly different spelling. I bought a few thousand followers to make it look legitimate, populated it with some of her public photos, and let it sit for a week to look established. Then, the real work began. I started leaving offensive and controversial comments on popular news articles and public figure pages from the fake account. Nothing overtly hateful, just ignorant, tone-deaf comments designed to make her look like an out-of-touch, entitled jerk. The kind of comments that get screenshotted and passed around. Simultaneously, I sent another anonymous email, this time to the HR department at her firm, pretending to be a concerned coworker. I attached screenshots of the fake posts and claimed she'd been making similar inappropriate remarks in the office. I knew the public humiliation from her affair was still fresh in everyone's minds. Her character was already in question. My email was just the push they needed. A week later, a mutual acquaintance who still worked there messaged me. Sophie had been fired. Her professional life was in tatters. Her love life was next. Aside from her married boy toy, Sophie had been casually dating a guy named Ryan. He was a genuinely nice, quiet guy who was completely oblivious to her affair with Drew. He was an old friend of ours, so introverted that he had almost no social media presence. Getting to him would be trickier. His only digital footprint was his email. So I began a slow, methodical campaign. I sent him anonymous emails, starting off subtly, hinting that Sophie wasn't the person she pretended to be. Then I escalated, sending him the same damning evidence of her affair with Drew that I'd sent to Drew's wife. To seal the deal, I fabricated a few flirty exchanges between Sophie and a fake profile I controlled. It was just enough to erode his trust completely. 2 weeks later, Sophie posted a vague, melodramatic story on Instagram about heartbreak and betrayal. It was official. Ryan had dumped her. She was now completely, romantically alone. Any normal person would have been done by now, but I wasn't a normal person anymore. The final knockout punch was her home. Sophie lived in a trendy downtown apartment she couldn't really afford, all for the sake of appearances. She had confessed to me months ago that she'd been late on rent a couple of times. I used that. I sent another carefully crafted anonymous email, this time to her landlord, posing as a representative from a credit bureau. I alerted him to unusually high credit card usage and potential financial instability, suggesting she was a high-risk tenant. To amplify the pressure, I created a fake community forum for her apartment building and started a thread about a problematic tenant, alluding to the affair and spreading rumors that she was mentally unstable and prone to loud, dramatic fights. The neighbors, spooked by the online gossip, started complaining to the landlord. Wanting to avoid any trouble, he served her an eviction notice. No job, no boyfriend, and now no home. Sophie was left with nothing. I had leveled the playing field. I had taken everything from her, just as she had from me. The war was over, and I had won. Sophie was a ghost, couch surfing between the few acquaintances who hadn't completely cut her off. Our old friend group, having seen her spectacular fall from grace, slowly started to trickle back into my life, their apologies tinged with the guilt of having believed her lies. Even Ryan reached out. After he broke up with Sophie, we started talking. I played the part of the supportive friend, telling him how sorry I was that she had treated him so wrongly. He thanked me for being real with him and eventually asked me out for brunch. For a moment, it felt like I was getting my old life back, piece by piece. The satisfaction was a warm, heady glow. I had proven that she couldn't destroy me without facing total annihilation herself. But as the weeks turned into months, something strange started to happen. The glow of victory began to fade, replaced by a cold, persistent hollowness. I had gotten a new job, one I was more than qualified for, but my performance was tanking. My mind wasn't on marketing strategies, it was on Sophie. I found myself obsessively scrolling through social media, searching for any scrap of information about her downfall, hungry for more evidence of her misery. My quest for revenge had become my entire identity. The satisfaction I had felt was an addiction, and now that the main event was over, I was in withdrawal. Ryan and I went on a few dates, but they were a disaster. He was right when he eventually called it quits. Every time we go out, he said gently, his eyes full of a sad kind of pity, all you talk about is Sophie. I feel like I'm on a date with a ghost. He was right. I couldn't stop. The anger and betrayal had been the fuel, but the revenge had become the engine, and I didn't know how to turn it off. I was isolated, angry, and bitter. I was so focused on her life that I had completely neglected to rebuild my own. The moment of clarity came one quiet Tuesday night. I was sitting alone in my living room, the television off, just staring at the black, reflective screen. And in that dark mirror, I saw myself. Not the successful, confident woman I had been, but a stranger with tired eyes and a tight, bitter set to her mouth. I had won. I had destroyed her. But at what cost? In my crusade to ruin her, had I become just like her, a person driven by negativity whose entire world revolved around someone else's destruction? A few weeks later, I saw her. I was grabbing a coffee at a small cafe I rarely went to, and there she was, sitting alone at a corner table, staring into her phone. She looked diminished. The vibrant, often infuriating confidence she always carried was gone, replaced by a fragile, worn-out stillness. She looked tired. She looked broken. She didn't see me, and I didn't approach her. But as I watched her from across the room, a wave of something unexpected washed over me. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't satisfaction. It was just emptiness. A vast, echoing void where the fire of my revenge used to be. I had taken her job, her relationship, and her home. I had achieved everything I set out to do. But standing there, watching the shell of the woman who was once my best friend, I realized the horrifying truth. Revenge wasn't a prize to be won. It was a poison. And it doesn't just destroy your enemy. It hollows out the person who wields it, leaving them with nothing but the ashes of what they've burned. I had lost her, I had lost myself, and as I walked out of that coffee shop and back into my empty life, I was left with one haunting question. Was it all worth it?